Olá, sejam bem-vindos ao CARAS Business. Eu sou Taya Marcondes e este é o nosso espaço de bate-papo com pessoas inspiradoras que vão falar sobre comunicação, empreendedorismo e quem são essas pessoas por trás das grandes marcas e dos grandes cases. Hoje, eu recebo uma mulher que transformou o conceito de hotelaria de luxo para famílias e foi além, criou um verdadeiro ecossistema de negócios onde educação, bem-estar e propósito andam juntos. CHITRA é engenheira, contadora e uma empreendedora visionária. Ela é suíço-britânica, com raízes indianas, que vive a sua alma portuguesa. Ela lidera o grupo Martinhal, proprietário de hotéis, brand residence e uma escola internacional que virou referência na Europa. CHITRA, seja bem-vinda. Welcome to Brazil and welcome to CARAS TV.
Thank you so much, Taya. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
It's my honor, really. I met CHITRA a long time ago, and she inspired me to live in Portugal. And we did great work together.
Yes.
And today I brought her here to share with us our view and to be inspirational for you, to our audience. So, para vocês se inspirarem com toda a história que ela traz da sua vivência em Portugal como empreendedora. CHITRA, this is a chat. It's not a traditional interview because we want to know more about the person behind the group Martinhal. So I want you to tell to our audience how your history started, because you are from Singapore.
Yes.
And I believe that the way your parents raised you in Singapore tell a lot about you right now. The languages you speak, the way you live, and the way you see the united Lisbon
Yes.
education.
Absolutely, Taya. And, I think no one can run away from their roots. We're all a product of how we were brought up, the country we were born in, so the society we're surrounded by. And I was born in Singapore. When I reflect upon it, it was 5 years after independence. And my parents gave me such a loving, warm home. And I had lots of siblings. I'm the oldest, and I have lots of siblings still. But home life was in Singapore was a lot about food, family, guests. We always entertained at home, so we always had guests at home. Maybe that was the root of my hospitality, my love for hospitality. But education was really a top priority in my family. And, both my parents, gave us the wings, really.
Mm-hmm.
When I look back, I'm a woman, but at no point was there any discussion of any limitations. In fact, my father made us girls dream of becoming Margaret Thatcher, Indira Gandhi, Golda Meir. These are strong female leaders that had to overcome several barriers in their rise to the top. This was the upbringing we had. And, again, no limits. In 1977, I was about to enter elementary school. And in Singapore, you have to do a second language as part of your schooling. And my father thought it would be very important for me to learn Mandarin as my second language, even though our home second language was Tamil, my mother tongue. And he was a visionary to really, get me to...
How old were you when he...
7.
Wow.
So actually, I was 5 when I entered kindergarten and, learned some Mandarin words, Chinese words. But he really opened our minds to the world, really.
Yeah.
And it was just the start of the opening up of China at the time, I still remember the postcard I received from him when he was in China on a trade mission as part of a Chamber of Commerce trip. And it was exciting, these thoughts of the wider world beyond Singapore always. So I think that really impacted me as a child and, without realizing later on in my adult life. So my love for languages, for example, definitely I learned a bit of French, a bit of German, Portuguese now. Brasiliano, esatto. So I would say that was very important. And I think this approach to other cultures and empathy for other cultures as well.
Yeah.
In Singapore, we are surrounded by other languages, other people, cultures, the food we eat. My favorite food in the world is probably Chinese food, not even Indian food, which is part of my origins. And respect for other religions and races. My father and mother come from Tamil Nadu, where, there are Muslims, Christians, Hindus. In fact, the village my father comes from, if you drive around, there are many mosques,
Wow.
South Indian Muslims. So we also grew up with that respect for other religions. On the way from Chennai down to south to his village, we would, pay our respects in the famous Catholic Church, which was apparently started by Portuguese people a long time ago, or added to Velankani Church, as well as the local mosque before we even reached his hometown. So we grew up with all these cultures around us, and I think empathy and mutual respect was very key. And the love for family, what can I say? The family was at the heart of many decisions, that they made. And I think leaving Singapore for an education was a big step. While we had, I would say, quite a protected childhood in Singapore, suddenly I was in London, for my university education. And that was another huge learning process. The world opened up for me, in a big way.
In a big way, yes.
And it was the days before we had mobile telephones, and, we used to write letters home, or, make a call. Yeah, exactly. Or make a call from a public phone booth. So, I would say those were the things that really shaped me. And when you ask, who's the person behind CHITRA, I mean, my passion for education as well comes from that time. I remember the conversations we used to have. Both my parents come, from educated families, and, people in those times saw things completely being lost in the Second World War. They had to leave everything and leave Singapore, for example. And, you had to make your life again. And this has happened to my father too in his life, where, he lost everything and he had to make his life again. And they always told us, my parents, people can never take away your education from you. Money can come and go, but education is the most important thing. And I think that is definitely a driving force behind the things that we do.
The base for everything.
Yes,
education.
yes, yeah.
And respect for everyone.
Respect, empathy, and that move. And I then did chartered accountancy at Pricewaterhouse, which is where I met my husband, who is Swiss, German, and we fell in love. And then I went on to do my MBA. But this path that I took, again, accounting, I still remember, why did I do chartered accountancy? I think back, I still remember my father telling me, his father, my grandfather, would try to find the 10 cents in the accounts, because a 10-cent difference could mean a much bigger difference. The net would be 10 cents, but it would be a much bigger difference. And that really made me very curious about accounting. So, everything you do, I think, in the end, it's in your DNA, but also the nurture around you. And I think growing up in Singapore, we grew up quite with strategic minds, because you always heard about the leader, Lee Kuan Yew, why he made certain decisions. And it was very strategic growth of Singapore. And today it's a very, rich island, and, people are extremely well educated. And I think that also formed me. Strategy was everything.
Everything. And it's still being everything.
Yes.
And after all this beautiful and inspirational history, how the idea of building a luxury family hotel came up. We can understand about the family, but in Sagres, because para a audiência, Sagres é um lugar bem ao sul de Portugal, é no Algarve, mas bem ao sul. E era um lugar, há muitos anos atrás, quando ela começou, ainda pouco habitado, muito inóspito. How came this idea to explore Sagres with a hotel, with this concept of family hotel?
So that was already, I mean, we, Roman and I decided to work together. That was a big step. Some people say, oh, how do you manage to do that? For us, it was the most natural thing. We have complementary skills, and this is about, working together, recognizing each other's strengths and forming a strong team.
Yes.
And I think this came naturally to us. And we were looking for business opportunities. So throughout my MBA, I looked at various business opportunities with Roman, and he'd also left Pricewaterhouse to do something else. And we, fate led us to look at a project in the Algarve in Portugal, which was in Carvoeiro. It's also in the Algarve in the south, but not as far west as Sagres. But that was our first time in the Algarve, and we got to know this beautiful country. This was back in 2001. Portugal had been part of the European Union for 15 years by this point in time. It was still the least discovered country within Western Europe. I think the Europeans knew the south of France, south of Italy, quite well, Spain even. But Portugal was kind of, people knew about the history of Portugal, of the discoveries, Brazil, Vasco da Gama, India. But there was very little knowledge of the modern Portugal.
Yes.
So when we arrived, we thought, wow, this is amazing. And the people were so genuine, welcoming. English was already widely spoken, which is important for, international business. And the EU, the important thing about Portugal being part of the EU was the infrastructure funds that were being rolled out into highways and airports connecting different parts of the country. It was an exciting time to visit Portugal, and there was a can-do attitude. The World Expo had just happened in this new part of Lisbon, which was not a safe. It was a poor, degraded place, but they made a huge transformation and connected it to the other side of the river. The Vasco da Gama Bridge was built. So exciting time, great spirit. And we took a leap. In entrepreneurship and entrepreneurism, very often you can analyze projects on a spreadsheet forever.
Yes, exactly. You have to take the risk.
You have to take the risk and make the decision to do things. And so we took the leap. We went and bought a small house in Lagos. At that time, Lagos was, not that known. People asked me, are you going to Lagos, Nigeria? No, it was Lagos in the Algarve in Portugal. And things were also transforming in tourism because the Ministry of Tourism in Portugal, had a big transformation, and they were doing amazing things, starting to promote the country abroad. The basics were being communicated: fresh fish, fresh ingredients, and there was a big food culture in Portugal, quite different to Singapore or India. But the fish is some of the freshest fish I've ever had. For example, it's the Atlantic fish, and so these things were getting to be known. And we bought a house, started our business in the garage, and started analyzing various projects, connecting with the Ministry of Tourism to find out what was happening. The EasyJet and Ryanairs of the world were starting to look for European hubs. So airlift was increasing as well to the Algarve in a big way. So, as an entrepreneur, there's the decision you have to take at the right time, but also luck. Every entrepreneur needs a bit of luck. And I think we made that decision to go to Portugal in 2001. 15 years later, many other people discovered Portugal and have been coming, but, we started there. And another decision was it was clear that, we had just gotten married and we wanted to create a business and a family. So looking back, it was quite ambitious, but, that's the thing. We said, we're going to do this. And we felt that Portugal was a great atmosphere for families as well.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what led us to Algarve. But you said Sagres. What led us to Sagres was once we had a foot there, once we'd based our office there, then we were looking at various interesting projects. You know, it wasn't kind of a foot here and a foot in London trying to analyze projects. We went there and, you know, we looked east and west of Lagos, and, you know, all that due diligence and searching around brought us to Quinta do Martinhal in Sagres. And, you know, it happened to be owned by a Swiss construction company alongside an American family. And we were able to talk about a deal with them to buy this land in phases. We had brought some capital, but it wasn't enough to do this big transaction. However, by talking to the then Swiss majority owner, we were able to structure an agreement where, you know, you bought it in phases. It's called vendor financing, but, you know, it was a deal. And then I would say the rest, once you do that, the rest is blood, sweat, and tears. We started having children. We had a business to grow. And, you know, had to do it in the corner of the country.
Yeah, when she says it seems to be simple, but a lot of challenge, especially the language.
Yes, neither of us spoke Portuguese.
Yes. And the bureaucracies are different. And
yeah, law was different. The bureaucracies are different. It was a small town hall at the edge of the country. And, you know, the thing with the economy is things go up and down. It's the norm. And, you know, you have, you're blindsided by certain things. And, you know, in 2008, we had to face the global financial crisis. You know, that this is, of course, much after we started, after the first phase of development. But, but, you know, this is, it does sound easy, hard work, passion, resilience, grit, keeping the team together. You know, we had to build up our own new team there. And that was part of the joy and difficulty. But we got on board great people, good people. And, you know, this is very important in doing anything entrepreneurial. I think Roman and I have had complementary skills. Neither of us was originally from the hotel industry. But we, you know, brought in people with expertise and knowledge. And, you know, and then you still had to face some, you know, changes, you know, when the global financial crisis happened. But that's a sort of trademark of an entrepreneur. You always have to be ready to be flexible, pivot. What should I do to you know, manage the situation?
Plan A, B, and C.
Exactly.
But you know, when you launched the first hotel, did you and Roman were planning to have more? And did you ever thought or have the strategy to have a group, like an ecosystem with hotels, brand residence, the school? Was that in your mind or in your strategy since the beginning, or this was fluid and going?
It happened as we went along. So, you know, this was a big project for us, the one we took on there. You know, it has today more than 200 keys that we manage. It has houses that we've sold and leased back into the operation of the hotel. You know, it has a hotel element, a brand, Martinhal, which we had to create from scratch. And nothing was a given, and we just had to start. So this positioning of luxury for families was definitely born out of the fact, you know, two things I would say. One is we started having children. So we have 4 kids. We've had 4 kids during this process. And we understood how difficult it was to go on holiday. You know, people are getting married later, you know, and having children later. And then you're used to having nice holidays, and suddenly, you know, you have children. And, you know, people travel more with their children these days. But, you know, a hotel which understands the parents and the children is quite hard to find, or the grandparents, parents and children these days. And that's where we saw a niche. You know, we thought there was definitely something you know, a niche there to develop. And you know, being both from business school backgrounds, you know, you had to think about what the competition was. And are you going to do the same as others? You know, just having a 5-star hotel is not a big deal anymore. Okay. And there are lots of golf courses. So how are you going to position this hotel? What does it mean to people? building a brand. And at that time, I don't think we even understood the challenge, but
Yeah.
we were willing to take it on and learn as we went. I mean, I think one other thing to say is we're really a learning organization and all about continuous improvement. I think as people, Roman and I are like that. I don't know whether it's the Swiss and Singaporean backgrounds,
Yeah.
but it is about achieving excellence and continuous improvement.
Yes.
You always try to go higher and higher. And we love learning. So there we were, learning all about this and creating a brand. And I'm not from a marketing background, engineer, chartered accountant, MBA. But what was clear for an MBA, especially as you do different case studies, is the brand really makes a difference. And if you have an authentic positioning of the brand,
exactly.
And this is, when you say CHITRA, what is it about the brand? I mean, clearly it was about looking after families and looking after them well because of the challenges we'd had ourselves, trying to solve a pain point for families. And also, going the extra mile for our guests. All this was built into our DNA, but with a lot of hard work. We lived on site for 7 years.
Wow.
Initially on a construction site, and the children had to travel an hour or hour and a quarter sometimes to school. There was like a little bus that took them. Little kids, they were also little at the time. I mean, my oldest is 22 now, and the youngest is 14. So 4 children. But that was an important time for the DNA of the brand.
Yes.
What is Martinhal? And you said, did we know we were going to expand? Actually, after we managed to survive the global financial crisis, keep our head above water, and started building this team, the brand, and you were getting these amazing people that you were forming in your brand, but you're going to lose them, if you only have one hotel.
Yes.
So this was one of the drivers for us to keep these great people and, bring them to new heights. And this was a driving force behind the expansion. But of course, the core of it was the expansion is only possible because there was a niche in the market, and our guests wanted to travel with the brand in other parts of Portugal.
Yeah.
So, and we were able to discuss non-performing assets, non-performing loans, as we say, with banks, certain properties that we could bring our brand to. And, that's how we worked with the banks. So we expanded the brand Martinhal to Quinta do Lago in the Algarve, and then to Cascais and Quinta da Marinha, central Lisbon also, Chiado. And we, bought a piece of land. And this was the learning and challenge part. How did we diversify out of hotels into, commercial development? There's a piece of land in Parque das Nações. It had planning for a hotel and planning for a commercial building. And Roman thought it would be great to learn about developing a commercial building. And that's how, it started.
And then you did it.
And we did it,
Yes.
So now, both buildings are award-winning, in terms of architecture, as well as what we do inside them. And that commercial building was sold to an insurance company. It's their headquarters now.
And then the school is close to this.
So the school was another, So diversification, again, we, bought 2 pieces of land next to each other in quite close to Parque das Nações in Marvila. But, backpedaling a little bit to understand the reason why we did that was as I said, education is very important to both our families.
Yes.
Actually, Roman's family, as well. It's about following your passion, getting educated, making sure that you have the keys to the future. And in 2016, we felt a disappointment that the sort of, united aspect of the world was kind of falling apart. Britain voted to leave the European Union. And, there was talk in America about dismantling NATO, dismantling the UN. These are international institutions that keep the world together. The EU was born out of the Second World War, and it started with the economic cooperation and then led to an ever closer union, which is so important. It has been so important for peace in Europe. So We really, it coincided with the time I was on a task force, a foreign direct investment task force. I did pro bono work for the government of Portugal. I had an invitation. It was an honor to be asked, and a task force reporting directly to the Prime Minister's office. And one of the things that was clear at the time was the lack of international schools in Lisbon was forming a barrier to further foreign direct investment. People couldn't come and live in Lisbon. Foreigners or foreign companies couldn't settle down in Lisbon if you didn't have more international schools for these people's children. What started out as that led to us looking at these two major projects. I mean, in total, it's 35,000 square meters of building above soil. We put it together to make the EduHub of Lisbon, which had the international school, but other elements that brings the school much more into the future. Because again, with the school, it was important. We had to look at education 4.0 or 5.0 or even further into the future. Technology was already becoming quite important, more and more important. Entrepreneurship, every company wants entrepreneurial people. Governments are trying to make their people more.
It's an education hub. It's not just international school.
It's not just an international school. It's an education hub. With the university collaboration space that we're building, a boarding unit for urban boarding in the school, as well as some other, boarding accommodation elements.
And the name is beautiful, United Lisbon.
Yes. So yes, because again, this a strong belief of ours that it's only by being united that we can hope to solve global problems such as war, education for all, getting people out of poverty, healthcare. So it's got some big ambitions, by being called United Lisbon.
Let's continue our conversation. Vou chamar os comerciais e a gente já continua essa conversa inspiradora com CHITRA Externo. Estamos de volta com CARAS Business. Hoje estou com CHITRA Externo, uma empresária de Portugal, e o nosso papo está uma delícia sobre os seus projetos do Grupo Martinhal. CHITRA, continuando sobre, we are continuing about talking the United Lisbon, which is a very special education hub in Lisbon. So we're talking about the hotel, about the residents, about the school. What are you now have new projects also, but they are residential projects, right?
Yeah, and I think what we are doing constantly is trying to find areas where we can bring our 24 years of entrepreneurial experience now in Portugal to use the Martinhal name and extend it into areas which we think have a market. Okay, that's what you have to do, because you need to survive as an entrepreneur as well. And it's not just about creating amazing things, but who's going to buy it, right? So, I mean, the school, has 600 students. It's growing. It's now a Duke's Education group school because we brought them in as a majority partner. This was a great success for us because we actually managed to get an amazing brand like Duke's involved in our school. And now we're part of a large group that is not just in the UK, but across Europe.
Across Europe.
Which is so important for the quality of education delivered. Other things, I mean, where, the Martinhal brand had done hotels and resorts, branded residences, which is going very well, our building in Practice Nações, Martinhal, Lisbon Oriente. The next step was really bringing our commitment to quality and excellence to other, even more real estate developments. And you have to find the opportunities. Strategy is one thing, but then you need to find things to invest in and deliver the product you're thinking of. So Martinhal Living was born because there is a need for high quality living. And we are doing a Martinhal Residences, one more Martinhal Residences in Luge, which is, a smaller element. There's less elements of service than what we have in Martinhal Lisbon Orient, but nonetheless, there's a heated pool, bar, poolside service, and a kids club and reception. So that's, a small unit, but it's in this beautiful village of Praia de Luz, where, every supermarket, shops, restaurants are
A nice
close walk,
village too.
nice village, and right at the beach. So very nice, very authentic experience, close to Lagos.
And the other one in Belas.
In Belas Club de Campo, where, we are going to do 20 apartments and 10 houses. And they're large houses. They're 300 square meter houses. So, everyone in Brazil knows about Belas Club de Campo, not least because of the Jordan family. It's Lisbon's Green Valley. That's the tagline. And it has beautiful natural areas, Parque Natural, protected areas. But it also has a beautiful golf course, bars and restaurant and supermarket, school. So it's a very self-contained, beautiful, closed condominium with security.
And there are already a lot of Brazilians living there.
A lot of Brazilians already living there. So, we're investing there and giving our name to the quality of the houses and apartments. But there are, other things such as, the world of hospitality is changing rapidly. And, if we bring our knowledge to some other brands, for example, we're doing hybrid student accommodation as part of the Edu Hub. And this will have another brand. And it's not luxury hotels as we know it, but it will be a high-end student and young urban professional accommodation. So,
a lot of projects.
And we're also looking to bring the Martinhal brand to Porto. To the
maybe
north.
to Brazil. We don't know. Let's see.
So we're looking at the expansion of Martinhal outside of the country. But it will be in a different way because, we can't, as much as I would love to, go and develop a building in Sao Paulo or, on the beach in Brazil. So, we're looking at bringing the Martinhal brand in the way of franchise or a hybrid franchise and management agreement to key locations.
And you need
outside.
to come back more because our time is finishing. We need to talk more about Martinhal and about you.
Thank you. There's so much more always to talk about, but it's always wonderful. Thank you so much, Taya. It's wonderful.
Before ending up our conversation, will you do a hapongi? It's like a ping pong. Fast answers.
Oh, no. Okay.
What is hard, building a brand or raising 4 kids?
The thing is, I think a brand doesn't talk back at you. So perhaps a brand is easier to build. And while building a brand is a lifetime thing, I think raising 4 children, they're wonderful, beautiful children, but a lot of effort does go into them. And, I am very proud of our children, and so is Roman. We're so happy to have created a family.
It's just to inspire people because raising 4 kids and building a brand, a hotel, a brand residence, a school, a lot of work and passion together.
It is. And then with the right partner, you can do it.
Exactly.
And, I always say...
And you are a great team.
With Roman and I working on this together, it's great.
A secret spot in Portugal that everyone should know.
A secret spot. There are many. Portugal is such an undiscovered country, and every week sometimes I'm learning about a new spot. Secret spot in Portugal that everyone should know. Gosh, I think for the Brazilians, they don't know the South yet. The Algarve.
I would say Sagres.
Sagres is still a secret spot for them because I don't have many Brazilian guests there yet. And in and around Sagres, you will find so many beautiful restaurants, coffee spots, and praias, the views, the beaches of Mareta, Tonel, Beliche, the Cabo São Vicente, the Cape of St. Vincent.
Beautiful.
Let's say for you Brazilians, this might be the secret spot you have to discover.
Luxuries?
Oh, definitely relaxation and sport for me. I find it quite difficult to relax because I'm a kind of a person who I need to master meditation.
Yeah.
So for me, relaxation is a luxury.
Luxury.
And playing sport, I've taken up paddle.
Yeah,
I'm over
to
50
relax.
years old, but yeah. So that for me is definitely a luxury to play paddle and learn how to bring myself down,
Yeah.
and do meditation.
Great. Martinhal in one feeling.
It's warm people, one feeling. It's the warmth you feel. And there's one thing that's so common, in every guest's words, that the staff is incredible. And the feeling that people get with the staff is the feeling of being totally welcome. Our staff goes the extra mile. So I would say warmth and feeling welcome in Martinhal, no matter which member of the family you are, whether you're a baby or a grandfather or grandmother. This is what I would say in one feeling.
Thank you, CHITRA. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you all for listening to me, and I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Obrigada a todos pela audiência. Nos vemos no próximo episódio. Nos sigam nas redes sociais e no YouTube. Obrigada.